The moment Deanna Pierce walked into the Harrington Grand Ballroom, she regretted accepting her best friend's invitation to this charity gala. The space was a symphony of wealth, crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light across marble floors that reflected the elegant crowd like a mirror. Women draped in designer gowns glided past men in perfectly tailored tuxedos, champagne flutes catching the light as laughter and conversation filled the air. Deanna smoothed down the emerald silk dress she had borrowed, feeling like an imposter among the elite. She had been a high school art teacher for the past 8 years, and events like this reminded her how far removed her world was from this one. "Stop fidgeting," Rebecca whispered beside her, linking their arms together. "You look stunning. That dress was made for you." Deanna managed a smile. "I still think I should have stayed home with a good book and a glass of wine." "Absolutely not. You have been hiding for too long. When was the last time you did something for yourself?" Rebecca guided them toward the bar, her burgundy gown swishing with each confident step. "Besides, the proceeds go to arts education. You should be here supporting it." That much was true. The Harrington Foundation had donated millions to schools across the state, funding art programs that would have otherwise been cut. Deanna had seen firsthand how those grants transformed her students' lives, giving them an outlet for expression they desperately needed. She owed it to them to show her support, even if mingling with millionaires made her uncomfortable. As Rebecca ordered their drinks, Deanna let her gaze wander across the crowd. Groups clustered throughout the ballroom, networking and socializing with the ease that came from wealth and privilege. She recognized a few local celebrities, a news anchor she watched every morning, and several politicians whose campaign signs had dotted lawns during the last election. Then her heart stopped. Across the room, standing among a small circle of admirers, was Sebastian Ellis, her ex-husband. The man she had divorced 5 years ago. The man whose absence had carved a hollow space in her chest that still ached on lonely nights. He looked different, not just older, but transformed. Sebastian had always been handsome in a casual, approachable way, with his sandy brown hair that never quite stayed in place and warm hazel eyes that crinkled when he smiled. But this version of him radiated power. His hair was styled with precision. His tuxedo fit him like it had been crafted specifically for his broad shoulders and lean frame. He held himself with a confidence she did not remember, commanding the attention of everyone around him without seeming to try. "Deanna, are you okay?" Rebecca's voice sounded distant. "You look like you have seen a ghost." "That is Sebastian," Deanna managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca followed her gaze and her eyes widened. "You're Sebastian. I thought he was working construction when you two split." "He was." Deanna could not look away. 5 years ago, Sebastian had been struggling to keep his small renovation company afloat. They had fought constantly about money, about his long hours, about the mounting debt that threatened to swallow them whole. Deanna had loved him desperately, but love could not pay bills or ease the stress that turned them into strangers sharing a bed. When he had told her he was taking out another loan to expand, she had begged him not to. They had screamed at each other that night, words like weapons that left invisible scars. A week later, she had filed for divorce. "Well, he definitely is not working construction anymore," Rebecca murmured. "Deanna, that is Sebastian Ellis. He is on the cover of Forbes magazine. He built an empire in sustainable building materials. His company revolutionized green construction. He is worth billions." The champagne flute Rebecca pressed into her hand felt cold against Diana's fingers. Billions. The word did not compute. Sebastian had been passionate about environmental responsibility, always talking about finding better ways to build, but she had thought those were just dreams. Dreams did not pay for groceries or keep the electricity on. "I need to leave," Deanna said, setting down her untouched champagne. "You cannot run every time life gets complicated," Rebecca said gently. "Besides, he has not seen you yet." But even as she said it, Sebastian turned. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom, and Deanna felt the impact like a physical blow. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by something she could not quite name. Surprise. Longing. Before she could decipher it, he was moving toward her, excusing himself from his conversation with the easy authority of someone accustomed to getting what he wanted. Deanna's first instinct was to flee, but her feet remained rooted to the floor. 5 years of wondering, of late-night what-ifs, and now he was walking toward her with purpose in every stride. The crowd seemed to part for him naturally, conversations pausing as people recognized his presence. "Deanna." Her name on his lips sent shivers down her spine. His voice was deeper than she remembered, roughened by time and experience. "I cannot believe you are here, Sebastian." She was proud her voice did not shake. Up close, she could see the subtle changes in his face. Fine lines around his eyes that had not been there before. A small scar above his left eyebrow that was new. But his eyes were the same, that warm hazel that had once looked at her like she was his entire world. "I did not expect to see you either." An understatement of massive proportions. "You look beautiful," he said, and the sincerity in his voice made her chest tighten. "Even more beautiful than I remember." Rebecca cleared her throat. "I am going to go find the appetizers. Deanna, I will catch up with you later." She squeezed Diana's arm and disappeared into the crowd before Deanna could protest. "Can we talk?" Sebastian asked. "Somewhere quieter." Every logical part of Diana's brain screamed at her to refuse. Nothing good could come from reopening old wounds. But her heart, that traitorous organ, yearned for answers to questions she had carried for 5 years. "Okay," she heard herself say. Sebastian placed his hand on the small of her back, the touch feather light but electric, and guided her through the crowd. People tried to catch his attention, but he politely deflected them all, his focus entirely on her. They left the ballroom and walked down a marble hallway lined with artwork, finally stopping in a quiet alcove with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. "I have thought about seeing you again so many times," Sebastian said, turning to face her. "Practiced what I would say, and now my mind has gone completely blank." Deanna wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm evening. "Rebecca told me you are successful now." "Congratulations." He flinched at the formality in her tone. "Deanna, I am so sorry for everything, for not being what you needed back then, for letting you go." "You did not let me go," she said quietly. "I left. I filed for divorce because I could not watch us destroy each other anymore." "I know. You were right to leave." He ran his hand through his hair, mussing the perfect styling. "I was obsessed with proving I could make it work. I was drowning, and instead of asking for help, I just kept sinking deeper. I pushed you away when I should have held on tighter." The pain in his voice mirrored the ache in her chest. "We both made mistakes. I should have been more supportive, should have believed in your vision." "You were trying to survive," Sebastian said. "I made you choose between your husband and financial security. That was not fair." They stood in silence for a moment, years of regret hanging between them like fog. "What happened after?" Deanna finally asked. "How did you go from drowning in debt to whatever this is?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "About 6 months after the divorce, I was ready to give up. I was days away from declaring bankruptcy. Then I got a call from an investor who had heard about my work with sustainable materials. He wanted to see my prototypes. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I showed him everything. He invested $20 million on the spot. Diana's eyes widened. 20 million. I know. I thought it was a joke at first. Sebastian leaned against the window, his profile sharp against the lights of the city. His name was Richard Harrington. He had made his fortune in real estate and wanted to invest in the future of green building. My materials, my vision, they were exactly what he was looking for. Within a year, we were revolutionizing the industry. Within 3 years, every major construction company wanted to work with us. Richard Harrington, as in the Harrington Foundation, he passed away last year, left me the foundation to run in his honor. Sebastian's voice softened with grief. He was like a father to me, believed in me when no one else did. Except Diana had believed in him once, before the bills and the fights and the crushing weight of watching their marriage crumble. She had believed in his passion, in his brilliance, in their love, but belief had not been enough. "I am happy for you," she said, and meant it. "You deserved success. Your ideas were always brilliant, Diana." He turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "I have thought about you every single day for 5 years, wondered if you were happy, if you had moved on, if you ever thought about me. Sebastian, do not do this. I know I have no right to ask. I know I lost you because of my own stubbornness and pride. But seeing you tonight, it feels like fate, like maybe we are being given a second chance." Diana took a step back, her heart racing. A second chance at what? We destroyed each other once already. We were different people then, young and scared and too proud to admit when we needed help. He moved closer, not touching her but close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and unfamiliar. "I am not that man anymore, and I do not think you are that woman either. You do not know anything about who I am now. Then let me learn. Let me take you to dinner. Coffee. Anything." His voice held a note of desperation that reminded her of the old Sebastian, the one who used to bring her flowers from the corner store and dance with her in their tiny kitchen. "I am not asking you to forgive me or to forget what happened. I am just asking for a chance to know you again." Diana wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself from the possibility of more heartbreak, but looking into his eyes, she saw the same man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. Older, wealthier, more polished, but fundamentally still Sebastian. Still the man who had held her during thunderstorms because she was afraid of lightning, who had stayed up all night helping her grade papers when she was overwhelmed, who had kissed her like she was precious and rare. One dinner, she heard herself say, just to talk, nothing more. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. "Thank you. You will not regret this, I promise." But as they exchanged phone numbers and Sebastian was called back to his obligations in the ballroom, Diana wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. 5 years ago, loving Sebastian Ellis had nearly broken her. Could she risk her heart again, knowing the potential cost? She returned to the ballroom to find Rebecca waiting with raised eyebrows and a knowing smile. "Well, I agreed to have dinner with him," Diana admitted. Rebecca squealed, drawing curious looks from nearby guests. "This is amazing, second chance romance. It is like a movie. It is just dinner, we are just talking. Sure, and I am the Queen of England." Rebecca linked their arms again, pulling her back toward the crowd. "Diana, I saw the way he looked at you. That man is still in love with you." "Love was never our problem," Diana said softly. "We loved each other, it just was not enough." But as the night wore on and Diana caught glimpses of Sebastian across the room, always surrounded by admirers but always seeming to find her in the crowd, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, love could be enough now. If they had both grown enough, learned enough, to make different choices this time. The question was whether she was brave enough to try. 3 days later, Diana stood in front of her closet having a minor crisis. Sebastian had texted her the morning after the gala, suggesting dinner at Aurelio's, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. She had looked it up online and nearly canceled when she saw the prices. A single entree cost more than her weekly grocery budget. "You are overthinking this," Rebecca said from her position on Deanna's bed, surrounded by rejected outfit options. "It is just dinner. At a restaurant where celebrities eat, with my ex-husband who is now a billionaire." Deanna held up a simple black dress. "Is this too boring?" "It is classic. Try it on." Deanna changed in the bathroom, studying her reflection critically. The black dress was elegant but understated, hitting just above her knees. She paired it with simple heels and pearl earrings her grandmother had left her. Professional but not trying too hard, she hoped. "Perfect," Rebecca declared when she emerged. "You look like yourself, just elevated." "He fell in love with you once, remember? Just be Deanna." But which Deanna? The 23-year-old bride who had believed love conquered all, or the 33-year-old divorcee who knew better? Sebastian arrived exactly on time, and when Diana opened her apartment door, her breath caught. He wore dark jeans and a gray button-down that made his eyes look more green than brown, rolled up at the sleeves to reveal strong forearms. Less billionaire, more the man she remembered. "Hi," he said, and she heard nervousness in his voice that settled her own anxiety. "Hi." They stared at each other for a moment before Sebastian laughed, the sound warm and familiar. "This is weird, right? I feel like I am picking you up for our first date all over again." Deanna smiled despite herself. "You were 2 hours late to our first date because your truck broke down. And you were still waiting when I finally showed up, covered in grease and apologizing profusely." He held out his arm. "I promise to be on time from now on, and significantly less greasy." She took his arm, and the simple contact felt both foreign and intimately familiar. Like coming home after a long journey to find everything slightly rearranged. The restaurant was everything she had feared and more. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, waiters in crisp uniforms moving silently between tables where the powerful and wealthy dined. Deanna felt out of place until Sebastian leaned in and whispered, "I hate these places. They are so pretentious. Want to leave?" She blinked. "You chose this restaurant." "I thought you would expect it, the whole billionaire thing." He looked sheepish. "But honestly, I would rather go to Mario's Pizza, like we used to." Mario's was a hole-in-the-wall place they had discovered during their marriage, run by an elderly Italian couple who made the best pizza Diana had ever tasted. They used to split a large margarita and breadsticks, sitting in the worn booth in the back corner for hours, talking about everything and nothing. "Is Mario's still open?" she asked. "I drive past it every week hoping to see you there," he admitted. 10 minutes later, they were sliding into their old booth at Mario's, the plastic red checked tablecloth, and the smell of baking dough more welcoming than any 5-star restaurant. Maria, the owner, did a double take when she saw them. Sebastian, Diana, together. She pressed her hands to her cheeks, her eyes filling with tears. "I thought I would never see this again." "It is just dinner, Maria," Diana said, but the older woman was already hurrying toward the kitchen, calling out to her husband in rapid Italian. "They are going to make a scene," Sebastian said, but he was grinning. "They asked about you for months after the divorce. I think Maria cried when I told her we split up. She sent me a care package," Diana admitted. "Frozen pasta, and a note telling me all men are idiots but some are worth forgiving." Sebastian's smile turned bittersweet. She was not wrong about the idiot part. Their pizza arrived faster than usual, and Mario himself brought it out, refusing to let them pay despite Sebastian's protests. As they ate, falling into easy conversation about their lives over the past 5 years, Diana felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crack. Sebastian told her about the early days of his company, the terrifying risks and the exhilarating victories. How he had worked 18-hour days for 3 years straight, driven by a combination of ambition and the need to prove he had been right. How success had felt hollow because he had no one to share it with. Diana talked about her students, the challenging ones who broke her heart and the success stories that kept her going. How she had taken up painting again, selling her work at local art fairs. How she had learned to be alone without being lonely, though some nights were harder than others. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had held on a little longer?" Sebastian asked, his voice quiet. "If we had made it just 6 more months until Richard came along?" "I used to torture myself with that question," Diana admitted. "But then I would remember how unhappy we were. How every conversation turned into a fight. How we stopped touching, stopped laughing. I could not live like that, Sebastian. It was killing both of us." "I know. I was so consumed by proving I could succeed that I lost sight of why I was doing it in the first place. I wanted to build a future for us, but I destroyed our present in the process." He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "I learned a lot about myself in the past 5 years, about what really matters. And Diana, every success, every milestone, I wished you were there to share it with me. You could have called." The words came out more accusatory than she intended. "Would you have answered?" he asked gently. She thought about the first year after their divorce, when she had jumped every time her phone rang, hoping and dreading it would be him. About the second year, when she had finally boxed up their wedding photos and put them in storage. About the third year, when she had gone on her first date with another man and spent the entire evening comparing him to Sebastian. "Probably not," she admitted. "I almost called 1,000 times, especially in the beginning." Sebastian finally took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "But I knew I needed to become someone worthy of you first, someone who could give you the life you deserved. I never needed wealth, Sebastian. I just needed stability, partnership. I needed to feel like we were on the same team instead of fighting each other. I know that now. Back then I was too stubborn and proud to see it." He squeezed her hand. "But I see it clearly now, and I want to show you that I have changed, that I can be the partner you needed then and the man you deserve now." Diana's heart raced. "This is not about money. You being rich does not fix what was broken between us. I know, but I am not offering you money, I am offering you me, a better version who has learned hard lessons about what matters." His eyes held hers, intense and sincere. "Give me a chance to prove it, not one dinner. A real chance. Let me date you properly this time. No rushing, no pressure. Just 2 people getting to know each other again." Every logical bone in her body told her to refuse, to protect herself, to remember the pain and the tears and the nights she had cried herself to sleep in their empty bed. But her heart, that stubborn, hopeful thing, wanted to believe in second chances. "Slow," she said finally. "We go slow, and at the first sign that we are falling into old patterns, we stop." The relief and joy on his face was almost painful to witness. "Slow, I can do slow. I can do whatever you need." They finished their pizza, talking until Maria started giving them pointed looks and gesturing at the clock. It was nearly midnight and they were the last customers. Outside the restaurant, the spring air was cool and filled with the sounds of the city at night. "Can I drive you home?" Sebastian asked. Diana nodded, following him to a sleek black car that probably cost more than she made in 5 years. The interior was all leather and technology, a far cry from the battered truck he used to drive. "You miss it?" she asked as he navigated through the quiet streets. "Your old life, when things were simpler." He was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes, not the stress or the fear of failure, But the simplicity, yes. The feeling that every small success was a victory. Now everything is so complicated. So many people depending on me, so many obligations. He glanced at her. Being with you tonight, eating pizza at Mario's, it felt like finding something I had lost, something real. Diana's apartment building appeared too quickly. Sebastian parked and walked her to the door like a gentleman from another era. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "For being honest, for the pizza. Thank you for giving me a chance." He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Can I see you again, maybe this weekend? I have an art show on Saturday at the community center downtown. What time? 3 to 7. But you do not have to come. I am sure you have better things to do than look at amateur watercolors." His expression turned serious. "Diana, there is nothing I would rather do than support your art. I will be there." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. The tender gesture, so much more intimate than a kiss on the lips, made her eyes burn with unshed tears. "Good night, Diana. Good night, Sebastian." She watched from her window as he drove away, her mind spinning with possibilities and fears. Rebecca was going to lose her mind when she heard about this. Diana pulled out her phone and sent a text before she could second-guess herself. "You were right. I think he might still be in love with me, and I might still be in love with him too." The 3 dots appeared immediately. "I knew it. Tell me everything. Coming over." Diana laughed despite the tears now rolling down her cheeks. Happy tears, she realized with surprise. For the first time in 5 years, she felt hopeful about the future. Terrified, yes, but hopeful. Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Sunny, but not too warm. Diana had been setting up her booth at the community center for hours, arranging her paintings and trying not to panic about Sebastian seeing her work. She had started painting again as therapy after the divorce, a way to process her emotions without words. Many of her early pieces had been dark, full of blues and grays, abstract expressions of grief. But over time, color had crept back in. Hope had emerged in brushstrokes. "Stop rearranging them," Rebecca said, batting her hands away from a landscape of the city skyline at sunset. "They look beautiful. You are talented and people are going to love them." "I am nervous," Diana admitted, "because Sebastian is coming. Because what if he sees these paintings and realizes how messed up I was after our divorce? Some of these are basically therapy sessions on canvas." Rebecca studied the collection with a critical eye. "I see growth. I see healing. I see a woman who took her pain and made something beautiful from it. He should be honored that you are sharing this with him." The doors opened at 3, and within minutes, the community center was buzzing with visitors. Diana was surprised and pleased by the genuine interest in her work. Several people asked about prices, and she sold 2 small pieces in the first hour. She was discussing commission work with a potential client when she felt a presence behind her. Sebastian stood in front of her largest painting, completely still. It was one she had painted about 2 years after their divorce, when the acute pain had faded to a dull ache. The canvas showed 2 figures made of light, reaching for each other across a dark space filled with stars. Not quite touching, but the yearning in their posture was palpable. Diana excused herself from her conversation and walked over to stand beside him. "That one is not for sale." "It is extraordinary," he said softly. "The emotion in it, the longing, you can feel it. It is called Almost. I painted it on what would have been our 7th anniversary." He turned to look at her, his eyes searching her face. "You were thinking about me. I never stopped thinking about you, even when I wanted to, even when it hurt too much." She gestured to the collection. "Half of these paintings are about you, about us." About trying to figure out how to be whole again after losing half of myself. Sebastian studied each painting with intense focus, and Diana watched him piece together the story she had told in color and form. The dark period immediately after their split, the slow emergence of light, the gradual return of hope. When he finished, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "You are incredibly talented. These should be in a gallery, Diana. Real galleries, not a community center. They are personal. I'm not sure I want strangers analyzing my heartbreak. Then let me buy them." He said it casually, but she could hear the intensity beneath. "All of them. I will pay whatever you ask." "Sebastian, no, that is not why I invited you here." "I know, but I want them. I want to see your journey, to understand what you went through." He took her hand. "Please. Let me have these pieces of you that I missed." Diana's throat tightened. "You cannot buy your way back into my heart." "I am not trying to. I just want to honor your art, your process, your healing." He squeezed her hand. "But if you would rather sell them to other people, I understand." "I just had to ask." She looked at the paintings, her visual diary of grief and recovery. The thought of strangers owning them felt wrong, but the thought of Sebastian having them felt intimate, like giving him pieces of her soul. "What would you do with them?" she asked. "Hang them in my home. Look at them every day and remember what my stupidity cost us both, and what we might build together if you let me try." Before she could respond, a well-dressed woman approached, her eyes fixed on Almost. "Excuse me, is this available? I would like to purchase it." Diana opened her mouth to refuse, but Sebastian beat her to it. "I am sorry, but I have just purchased the entire collection. However, I am sure the artist would be happy to discuss commission work with you." The woman looked disappointed but accepted Diana's business card before moving on. Sebastian looked at Diana with a mix of hope and defiance, clearly prepared for her to be angry at his presumption. Instead, she found herself smiling. "You are impossible. I prefer determined. You just spent a fortune on paintings that are basically me processing my feelings about you." "Best money I have ever spent." He grinned, and it was so achingly familiar that her heart stuttered. "Besides, I told you I would support your art. I meant it." They spent the rest of the afternoon together, Sebastian charming her potential clients and talking up her work with genuine enthusiasm. He knew nothing about art, he admitted cheerfully, but he knew what he liked, and he liked everything she created. His presence should have been distracting, but instead it felt natural. Easy. Like they were partners again. When the show ended, Sebastian helped her pack up her remaining pieces and load them into his car. "Have dinner with me," he said. "Not Mario's this time. I want to cook for you." "You want to cook? Since when do you cook?" "I learned out of necessity." "Turns out when you work 18-hour days, you either learn to cook or live on takeout. I got tired of takeout." He opened the car door for her. "Please. I promise I have gotten better since my scrambled eggs days." Diana remembered his scrambled eggs, which had the texture of rubber and the taste of cardboard. She had banned him from cooking breakfast during their marriage. That is a low bar. Trust me. And because she was starting to, she did. Sebastian's home was not what she expected. Instead of a massive mansion, he lived in a renovated warehouse loft with exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. The space was open and minimalist, filled with clean lines and modern furniture, but it felt warm somehow. Personal. "This is beautiful," Diana said, walking to the windows. The sun was setting, painting the water in shades of gold and amber. "I bought it 3 years ago. It needed a complete renovation, and I got to use all my experimental materials. The whole building is now a model for sustainable urban living." He shrugged off his jacket, rolling up his sleeves. "Make yourself comfortable. Wine is in the fridge if you want to open a bottle." Diana explored while he cooked, noting the small personal touches that made the space his. A bookshelf filled with architecture and design texts, framed photos of his team at various work sites, a worn guitar in the corner that surprised her until she remembered he used to play badly when they were married. "You still play?" she asked. "Sometimes, when I cannot sleep." "I am still terrible at it." She laughed, the sound echoing in the open space. Finding the wine, she poured 2 glasses and brought one to the kitchen, watching as Sebastian moved with confidence through the space. He was making something with chicken and vegetables, the scents making her stomach growl. "Smells amazing. Reserve judgment until you taste it." But he looked pleased. They ate at his dining table, the city lights beginning to twinkle outside the windows. The food was surprisingly good, and Deanna told him so. "I had a lot of lonely dinners to practice," he said. "Cooking for one gets old fast. No girlfriend to cook for." She tried to sound casual. "I dated a few people, nothing serious. I could not commit when my heart was still hung up on my ex-wife." He met her eyes. "What about you?" "A few dates here and there. Rebecca set me up a couple of times, but nothing stuck. I guess I was not ready." And now, the question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Deanna took a sip of wine, considering. "I think I might be getting there, but I am scared, Sebastian. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of falling back into old patterns." "I am scared too," he admitted. "Scared I will disappoint you again. Scared this is a dream and I will wake up alone." He reached across the table, palm up, an invitation. "But I think some things are worth being scared for." Deanna placed her hand in his, feeling the calluses on his palm that spoke of hard work despite his wealth. "We really hurt each other. We did. And I cannot promise we will never hurt each other again. But I can promise I will never stop trying, never stop choosing you, never take you for granted like I did before." His grip tightened. "I love you, Deanna. I never stopped. And if you give me the chance, I will spend every day proving you were right to trust me again." Tears blurred her vision. "This is only our second date. You are not supposed to declare love on the second date. We were married for 3 years. I think the normal rules do not apply." He stood, moving around the table to kneel beside her chair. "I know you said slow, and we can go as slow as you need, but I need you to know how I feel. I love you. I have loved you through the divorce, through 5 years of separation, through every moment of every day. That has never changed." Deanna cupped his face in her hands, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw. "I love you too. I tried so hard not to, tried to move on, to forget. But you have been a part of me since I was 23 years old, and I do not know how to be myself without you." "Then do not be. Be yourself with me." He leaned into her touch. "We will figure it out together this time, as partners, as equals." She kissed him then, and it was like coming home. His lips were familiar, but the kiss felt new, charged with the people they had become. 5 years of growth and pain and learning compressed into a single moment of connection. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Slow," she reminded him, even as her hands gripped his shirt. "Very slow," he agreed, his voice rough. "Glacially slow." They made it approximately 5 more minutes before Slow went out the window. Sebastian carried her to his bedroom, their clothes leaving a trail behind them, and they came together with the desperate intensity of 2 people who had been starving for each other. It was familiar and new, passion tempered with tenderness, 5 years of longing expressed in touches and kisses and gasped names. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with her head on his chest, Deanna felt more at peace than she had in years. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear, his hand tracing lazy patterns on her back. "That was not slow," she murmured. She felt his chest rumble with laughter. "No, it was not. Regrets? Not yet. Ask me in the morning when panic sets in." "Stay," he said, tightening his arms around her. Stay tonight, stay tomorrow, stay forever. Forever is a big ask after 2 dates. 2 dates and a 3-year marriage. I am playing the long game here. Deanna tilted her head to look at him. In the dim light from the windows, his face was soft with contentment. What does the long game look like? Honestly, I want everything. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to come home to you every night. I want to support your art and have you challenge my ideas. I want to fix what I broke and build something even stronger. He brushed hair from her face. I want to remarry you, Deanna. Not now, not tomorrow, but eventually, when you are ready. I want to do it right this time. Her heart felt too big for her chest. You are assuming I will say yes. I am hoping, praying, planning to work my ass off to deserve a yes. He kissed her forehead. But for now, I will settle for you staying the night. I can do that. She fell asleep in his arms, feeling safe and cherished in a way she had not felt in 5 years. And when she woke in the middle of the night, momentarily disoriented, Sebastian pulled her closer and murmured her name like a prayer. She settled back into sleep, smiling. Morning came with sunlight streaming through the massive windows. Deanna woke alone, momentarily panicked, before she heard sounds from the kitchen and smelled coffee. She borrowed one of Sebastian's shirts, which hit her mid-thigh, and padded out to find him making breakfast in nothing but pajama pants. "Good morning," he said, his smile bright enough to rival the sun. "I made coffee, and I am attempting pancakes, which is ambitious, but I was feeling brave." She accepted the coffee gratefully, hopping up to sit on the counter. "This feels surreal. Good, but surreal. I keep expecting to wake up." He poured batter into a pan, his movements practiced. "But if this is a dream, I do not want to wake up." They ate breakfast, talking about their weeks ahead. Deanna had parent-teacher conferences and a particularly challenging student who was acting out. Sebastian had a presentation to the city council about a new sustainable housing project. Normal life things, but sharing them felt significant, like they were weaving their separate lives back together. "Come to the presentation," Sebastian said suddenly. "It is Wednesday afternoon. I would love for you to see what I do now. I have school until 3. It starts at 4. You could make it." He looked almost nervous. "I want to share this part of my life with you if you want." "I want," she assured him. "I want to know everything about your life now." The next few weeks fell into a pattern. They saw each other whenever they could, which was often. Sebastian would show up at her apartment after work with takeout, and they would eat while she graded papers. She attended his presentation, which was impressive and passionate, watching him command the room with the same intensity he brought to everything. They went on actual dates, everything from fancy restaurants to the zoo, rediscovering each other while acknowledging who they had been. Deanna met his business partner, James, a sharp man in his 50s who raised an eyebrow when Sebastian introduced her as his ex-wife, but was gracious and welcoming. "He talks about you constantly," James confided when Sebastian stepped away to take a call. "Has for years. I am glad you are giving him another chance." Sebastian met Rebecca officially over brunch, enduring her protective scrutiny with good humor. "Hurt her again and I will destroy you," Rebecca said cheerfully. "I do not care how many billions you have." "Fair enough," Sebastian agreed. "But I do not plan on giving you a reason." They still had their challenges. Deanna sometimes woke up from nightmares about their past fights, the fear of repeating history making her pull away. Sebastian occasionally got so absorbed in work that he forgot to call, and Deanna had to fight the urge to assume he was choosing his company over her again. But they talked through it, communicated, did the hard work of building trust. 3 months after their reunion, Sebastian invited her to a family dinner with his parents. Deanna had always gotten along with them, but facing them after the divorce was daunting. "They are going to hate me," she worried, changing outfits for the third time. They never hated you. They understood why you left. My mother actually told me I was an idiot for letting you go. Sebastian adjusted his tie in the mirror. Besides, I already told them we are back together. My mother cried happy tears. His parents lived in a comfortable suburban home filled with family photos and memories. Billionaire Ellis answered the door and immediately pulled Deanna into a tight hug. Deanna, oh, it is so good to see you, sweetheart. Billionaire had tears in her eyes. Come in, come in. Stephen is in the kitchen pretending he knows how to cook. Stephen Ellis appeared, wiping his hands on a towel, and gave Deanna a warm smile. Diana, welcome back. You look wonderful. The dinner was easy and warm, full of laughter and stories. Billionaire showed Deanna photos of Sebastian at various business events, clearly proud of her son's success. Stephen told embarrassing childhood stories that made Sebastian groan. And when Billionaire asked carefully about their relationship, Deanna found herself speaking honestly about second chances and growth. We are taking it slow, Deanna said, learning from our mistakes. You look happy, Billionaire observed. Both of you. Happier than I have seen Sebastian in 5 years. After dinner, while Deanna helped Billionaire with dishes, the older woman spoke quietly. I know you had reasons for leaving. Good reasons. Sebastian was not in a good place back then, but he grew from it, and I think you both needed that time apart to become who you were meant to be. I hope so, Deanna said. I cannot go through that pain again. He would not survive losing you twice, Billionaire said simply. That boy loves you with everything he has, always has. The words stayed with Deanna as summer turned to fall. She and Sebastian had been back together for 6 months, and it felt both like no time had passed and like they were completely new together. They had not moved in together, both agreeing they needed to maintain some independence while rebuilding their relationship. But they spent most nights together, alternating between his loft and her apartment. On their first anniversary of reuniting, Sebastian took her back to the Harrington Grand Ballroom where they had run into each other. The same space where everything had changed. I wanted to celebrate where we found each other again, he said, leading her out onto the empty ballroom floor. The space had been reserved just for them, candles providing soft light and music playing from hidden speakers. Dance with me. They swayed together, and Deanna rested her head on his shoulder, breathing in his scent and marveling at how right this felt. Best accidental meeting ever. I do not think it was an accident. I think fate knew we were ready. He pulled back to look at her, and his expression made her breath catch. Deanna, I know we said we would take things slow, and we have, but I need you to know that I am ready for more when you are. I am ready for everything. What does everything mean? Instead of answering, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Deanna's heart stopped. I am not asking yet, he said quickly. I learned my lesson about rushing, but I want you to know my intentions. I want to marry you again, Deanna. I want to do it right this time. Have the wedding we should have had, make the promises we should have kept, build the life we should have had. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring with a center diamond surrounded by smaller stones. This was my grandmother's ring. She left it to me before she passed, made me promise I would only give it to the woman I truly loved, the woman I would spend my life with. Diana's eyes filled with tears. Sebastian, I am not asking you to answer now. I just want you to know I am sure, completely sure. And when you are ready, when you are sure, this ring will be waiting. He closed the box and pressed it into her hands. Keep it, think about it, and when you are ready, you can give me your answer. She looked down at the box, then up at his face. He looked nervous but determined, love shining in his eyes so clearly it took her breath away. And in that moment, Deanna realized she did not need more time. She knew. "Ask me," she whispered. "What? Ask me now. I do not need to think about it." Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "I know my answer." Hope and fear warred on his face. "Deanna, I do not want you to feel pressured. I am not. I am ready. I am sure." She smiled through her tears. "Ask me." He took the box back, opened it, and slowly got down on one knee in the center of the empty ballroom. "Deanna Pierce, love of my life, woman who never gave up on me even when you should have, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I am worthy of your love? Will you be my partner, my wife, my everything?" "Yes." The word came out on a sob. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then he was standing, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around while she laughed and cried simultaneously. When he set her down, he kissed her with such tenderness and passion that the rest of the world fell away. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I will love you forever. I love you too. Forever." They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family, not the rushed courthouse wedding they had the first time, but a real celebration. Deanna wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Sebastian cried when he saw her walking toward him. They wrote their own vows, promising honesty and partnership and forever. "I promise to never let work come before us," Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. "To choose you every single day. To listen when you speak and hold you when you cry. To be your partner in every sense of the word. I promise to believe in you even when things are hard," Deanna said. "To communicate instead of shutting down. To trust in us and in our love. To build a life with you that honors both of our dreams." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, their second first kiss as a married couple was witnessed by teary-eyed friends and family. Rebecca sobbed openly. Eleanor beamed. And as they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, Deanna felt the last piece of her heart that had been broken 5 years ago finally heal. The reception was at Sebastian's loft, which they had decided would become their home together. Deanna had slowly been moving her things in over the past months, and the space now reflected both of them. Her paintings on the walls, his books mixed with hers on the shelves, a life blended and shared. "Can you believe we are married again?" Deanna asked, swaying with Sebastian on their makeshift dance floor. "To the same person. I can believe I got the luckiest second chance in history." He kissed her temple. "Thank you for taking a risk on me. You made it worth the risk." Their friends and family celebrated with them late into the night. James gave a speech about watching Sebastian transform from a struggling entrepreneur to a billionaire who had everything but was not happy until Deanna came back into his life. Rebecca toasted to second chances and true love. Eleanor simply hugged them both and told them she was proud. When everyone finally left and they were alone in their home, Deanna and Sebastian stood by the windows overlooking the river. The city lights reflected on the water, beautiful and peaceful. "What are you thinking?" Sebastian asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "That I am glad we found our way back to each other, that every moment of pain was worth it to get to this moment." She leaned back against him. "That I am excited for our future." "About that future," Sebastian said. "How do you feel about kids?" Deanna turned in his arms. "You want kids? I want everything with you. Kids growing old together, the whole package." He looked uncertain. "But if you do not want that, we do not have to. You are enough for me." "I want that too," she said softly. "I want to build a family with you. I want everything." A year later, Deanna stood in their bedroom with her hand on her still flat stomach, holding a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines. Tears streamed down her face as she heard Sebastian's key in the door. "Deanna, I brought Thai food." He called out. She walked out to meet him, test in hand. He took one look at her face and dropped the food. Are you? He could not even finish the question. She nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Sebastian crossed the space between them in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms and lifting her off her feet. We are having a baby. His voice cracked. We are having a baby. They cried together, holding each other in their home that would soon welcome new life. Everything they had lost and found and rebuilt had led to this moment. This perfect, terrifying, wonderful moment. Their daughter, Sebastian Ellis, was born on a rainy spring morning 8 months later. She had Diana's dark hair and Sebastian's hazel eyes, and from the moment Sebastian held her, Diana knew he would move mountains for their little girl. "She is perfect," he whispered, tears running down his face as he cradled Sophie. "You are both perfect." Watching Sebastian with their daughter, Diana was reminded why she had fallen in love with him in the first place. His capacity for love, his passion, his determination. These qualities that had once made him impossible to live with had been tempered by maturity, and now made him an incredible husband and father. 2 years later, their son Thomas arrived, completing their family. Sebastian scaled back his work hours, refusing to miss important moments like Sebastian had warned himself he would before. He was at every dance recital, every school play, every bedtime story. He had learned the lessons that had cost them their first marriage and applied them to their second chance. On their 5th wedding anniversary of their second marriage, 10 years since they had run into each other at the Gala, Diana and Sebastian stood on the balcony of their home. Sophie and Thomas were asleep in their rooms, the nanny keeping watch while the couple had a rare moment alone. "Do you ever think about how close we came to missing all of this?" Diana asked, leaning against the railing. "Every day. And every day I am grateful you gave me another chance." Sebastian pulled her close. "You saved my life, Diana. Twice. Once by leaving when you did because I needed to grow up, and once by coming back when you did because I needed you to make everything mean something." "We saved each other," she corrected. "We grew apart so we could grow up and come back together stronger. 10 years since the Gala, 5 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, a lifetime ahead of us." Diana tilted her face up for a kiss. "I would not change a single thing. Not even the divorce?" he asked with a slight smile. She considered it seriously. "Not even that, because it led us here, to this life, to these children, to who we are now." She touched his face gently. "Sometimes things have to break so they can be rebuilt better, stronger. We are stronger now, we are," he agreed. "And we will keep getting stronger, together." Inside the house, they could hear Sophie calling for water. Sebastian groaned good-naturedly. "I will go. You went last time." Diana watched him disappear inside, heard his gentle voice soothing their daughter, and smiled. This was what she had wanted all those years ago when they had first gotten married. Partnership. Balance. Love that showed up in the everyday moments, not just the grand gestures. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. "Happy anniversary. Can you believe it has been 10 years since the Gala? Best accidental meeting in history. When are you two giving me more godchildren to spoil?" Diana laughed and typed back. "We are done at 2, thank you very much. But they would love to see their Aunt Rebecca this weekend." Sebastian returned, scooping her up in his arms despite her protests. "Come on, Mrs. Ellis, our anniversary is not over yet. The kids are asleep. The nanny is here, and I plan to show my wife just how much I love her." He carried her toward their bedroom, and Diana wrapped her arms around his neck, laughing. "You are incorrigible. You love it." And she did. She loved him, loved their life, loved the journey that had brought them here, painful as parts of it had been. Years passed, marked by birthdays and holidays, school events and family vacations. Sebastian's company continued to thrive, but he never let it consume him the way it had before. Deanna opened her own gallery, showcasing not just her work but other local artists, giving them the platform she had once dreamed of. They taught their children about the importance of hard work and second chances, about loving with your whole heart and never giving up on what matters. On their 20th wedding anniversary, with Sophie away at college and Thomas in high school, Deanna and Sebastian returned to the Harrington Grand Ballroom. It had become their tradition to visit every 5 years, remembering the night that had changed everything. 20 years, Deanna marveled, dancing with her husband in the same spot where they had reunited. It feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. Best decision I ever made was attending this gala that night. Sebastian pulled her closer. Well, second best. The best decision was not giving up on us. We both made that decision. Every day we choose each other, we make that decision again. At 53, Deanna still saw the 28-year-old man she had fallen in love with when she looked at Sebastian. A little older, a little wiser, but fundamentally the same person. The man who brought her coffee in bed and listened to her talk about her students, who supported her art and cried at sappy movies, who had loved her through divorce and reconciliation, through babies and teenagers, through every high and low life had thrown at them. "What are you thinking about?" Sebastian asked. "That I am the luckiest woman alive, that I get to spend my life with my best friend. That love really can conquer all if you are willing to fight for it." "We fought hard for this," Sebastian agreed, "and it was worth every moment." As they danced in the ballroom where their second chance had begun, Deanna thought about the scared, hurting woman she had been 10 years ago. The woman who had run into her ex-husband and felt the earth shift beneath her feet. She thought about all the risks they had taken, all the fears they had overcome, all the ways they had grown both apart and together. Some love stories ended with the first kiss. Others ended with a wedding. But the best love stories, Deanna had learned, were the ones that continued long after the happily ever after. The ones that chose each other every single day. The ones that survived heartbreak and separation and came back stronger. She and Sebastian had lost each other once. But they had found each other again, and this time they were never letting go. This was their happily ever after. Hard-won, deeply felt, and absolutely perfect. And as they danced beneath the same crystal chandeliers where they had reunited a decade ago, Deanna knew with absolute certainty that some things were worth fighting for. Some people were worth taking a risk on. And true love, the kind that survived everything life threw at it, was worth every moment of pain and fear and uncertainty, because in the end, they had each other. And that made everything worth it.